What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, the saga continues between undefeated, newly crowned, 3-belt, unified, welterweight world champion, who is widely considered by many to be top 2 best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, in Errol "The Truth" Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. is 28 wins, no losses, no draw. 22 big wins by way of knockout. He's 32 years of age, 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach. He was on hand to see what I call the phenom, undefeated, rising welterweight superstar title contender, Jaron Boots Ennis. Jaron Ennis is 29 wins, no losses, no draw, 27 big wins by way of knockout. He is 24 years of age, 5'10" with a 74-inch arm reach. With that said, Jaron Ennis, he took on undefeated Canadian welterweight star title contender Custio Clayton, in which Jaron Boots Ennis, he knocked out Custio Clayton in the second round of their fight to become the IBF, International Boxing Federation, mandatory challenger for Errol Spence Jr., okay? So after the fight, he was asked about, excuse me, he was asked about, that being Jaron Ennis, what he wants next. And Jaron Boots Ennis, he stated that, you know, obviously the world wants to see Errol Spence versus his biggest rival, an undefeated 3-division world champion, who currently is the reigning WBO welterweight world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, that being none other than Terrence "Bud" Crawford, superstar boxer who is widely considered by many to be the #1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, with a record of 38 wins, no losses, no draws, 29 big wins by way of knockout. He is 34 years of age, 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach. That makes for the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. That's the fight that the world has been clamoring for and wants to see. With that said, you know, Jaron Ennis is mandatory. So Errol Spence, after the fight, Jaron Ennis was asked, what do you want next? The world wants to see Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. But if you can't get the winner of that fight, or you can't get one of those guys, what do you want next? So he says, I want any of the big names. This is being Jaron Boots Ennis. Any of the big names would do. He stated, but I want to go big fish hunting. And he, you know, he said, I'm pulling out my big fish rod and I'm going big fishing, right? And the big fish is sitting ringside, so it's time to go capture a big fish. In which Errol Spence and Jaron Ennis, they got, you know, they were drawing back and forth. Boots was talking to Errol Spence. He was sitting ringside. Obviously, Errol Spence was in attendance for his fellow stablemate, close friend, and now undisputed junior middleweight world champion, superstar boxer Jermell Lions Only Charlo, who is widely considered top 3 best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, okay? As he knocked out Brian Castano in the 10th round to become undisputed, the 7th undisputed 4 major sanction belt lineal champion in the history of the sport of boxing. History was made for Jermell Charlo last night. And so, you know, Jaron Boots Ennis, Errol Spence, they were going back and forth ringside. And afterwards, Errol Spence, he took to social media and he responded. Once again, Boots, he stated in interviews, post-fight interviews, he's going big fish hunt, okay? He's looking to secure that big fish, right? And Errol Spence, he responds, he said, they don't make a rod big enough to wheel in this big fish, bucko, right? So it's definitely heating up. Errol Spence, he stated that he knows he'll see Jaron Boots Ennis, you know, down the road. More than likely, he'll see him at 154. Seeing as though, you know, he wants to have this fight with Terrence Crawford. He stated his focus and his mind is solely on securing the fight with Terrence Crawford. It's not on nobody else, okay? He'll cross the bridge when he gets there, but the only person he's focusing on is Terrence Crawford and becoming undisputed. So he stated that he's motivated to become undisputed, especially after seeing Jermell Charlo become undisputed. And then he stated that he'll see Jaron Boots Ennis more than likely, you know, at 154, okay? Jaron Boots Ennis, he was asked about going to 154, of course, in which he responded he could easily go up to 154. but he's focusing on collecting all the belts and becoming undisputed at welterweight. That's his #1 objective, okay? Like I said, I don't see Jaron Boots Ennis and Errol Spence fighting at welterweight, okay? Errol Spence, he's already made it abundantly clear he has no interest in fighting, past one more fight at welterweight. He stated this before he went into the unification bout with Dennis Ugas, that, he had 1 or 2 fights left at welterweight, the Ugas fight and one more fight with Terrence Crawford. That's his #1 objective and his goal. Then he's moving up to 54. With that said, we know that last night, Jermell Charlo, he made it official that he's moving up to 154, said he don't have anything else left to prove at 154. Excuse me, he's moving up to 160. And his identical twin brother, who's the undefeated 2-division world champion, the reigning WBC middleweight world champion, Jamal Lions Only Charlo, he stated that he's moving up to 168. Okay, so he said he's moving up to 168. He stated that let his brother clean out 160, and he'll look to become a 3-division champion, which is a domino effect. Like I told everybody, Errol Spence will move up to 154. Jermell Charlo will move up to 160. And Jamal Charlo will move up to 168, so they don't cross paths, okay? They're never going to fight each other. So with that said, this is a huge fight they're in the making between Jaron Boots Ennis and Errol Spence Jr. I think that at this point in time, because there's so much of a demand and so much of a clamoring for Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence, I believe that Jaron Boots Ennis should, aggressively pursue former unified welterweight world champion, superstar boxer Keith one-time Thurman. Okay, Keith Thurman wants to be a world champion. Keith Thurman, he made his comeback in February 5th against Mario Barrios. So I believe that that's the road that Jaron Boots Ennis should travel right now. I know a lot of people calling for Boots to secure a fight with undefeated Mexican superstar welterweight title contender Vergil Ortiz Jr., who's 18 wins, no loss and no draw, 18 wins by way of knockout. He too is 24 years of age, 5'10" with a 70-inch arm reach. But that's not going to happen. For one, Vergil Ortiz is with Golden Boy Promotions and DAZN. And 2, they want to travel a path of least resistance to be able to secure a title, okay? They're not looking to come, together and clash with Jaron Ennis at this gesture in this stage of their career. So with that said, it just makes sense for Jaron Ennis to pursue Keith Thurman, who's with the PBC, Premier Boxing Champions, founder and advisor Al Heyman. He is 30 wins, 1 loss, no draws, 22 wins by way of knockout, 33 years of age, 5'7.5" with a 69-inch arm reach. So I believe that that's the route he should go, seeing as though Keith Thurman and he are in top 3 in the WBC rankings. Okay, Keith Thurman is pretty much top 5 in every ranking system there is. So I just think that Keith Thurman and Jaron Ennis makes sense. And you can make Jaron Boots Ennis and Keith Thurman as the co-main event to Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. Okay, Terrence Crawford has to come to the PBC. Okay, you can make Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr. with Keith Thurman versus Jaron Boots Ennis as the co-main event, right? That would be massive, massive. And they could break it up, right? They could break it up just how they did with Stanionis and Butev, right? Where you had the pay-per-view version portion was Errol Spence versus Dennis Ugas, but you had Stanionis and Butev as the co-main event, but they headlined the Showtime free pay-per-view. I mean, Showtime regular channel, right? So you could do something like that, split it up, right? And it'll make it a massive night of boxing. And then the winner of that fight is going to be able to fight, for, one of the belts, because obviously Terrence Crawford, he's expressed that he wants to part ways from 147 as well. Okay, so he stated that he don't have much interest in fighting beyond this fight with Errol Spence himself. Okay, so with that said, more than likely the belts are going to become vacant. So why not just go ahead and fight Keith Thurman? Then you can fight for the vacant belt. Keith Thurman, he fought Mario Barris in the WBC, made that a title eliminator. So he's the mandatory for the WBC. Makes it a huge night of boxing, unless you want to make Jaron Boots Ennis and Ennis Stonionis, you know, and let Keith Thurman fight somebody else. And then when the belts become vacant, then Keith Thurman and Jaron Boots Ennis can fight for a world title. That's an option as well. So let's see how this unfolds. But Jaron Boots Ennis, he said he whipping out the fishing rod, and he's going big fish hunting. And Errol Spence, he said they don't make a rod big enough to wheel in this big fish, bucko. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out. But that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Road. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.